Yeah, we were just randomly talking about some things off camera. We decided to just hit record and just like keep it running. You mentioned the really cool, interesting thing about samples, how some sample packs come in.
Yeah, so I got this pack. I can't remember who made it and all that stuff, but basically, like when I was dropping the drum samples in, I would put them in the step sequencer, and as it would go through, like playing through, it wasn't triggering any of the samples, and I was like, why isn't this working? Certain packs or certain like folders would work and some wouldn't. And what I've realized was, so if you go into the sampler and you go to the wrench and you'll see that piano at the bottom there, the root note was set to like all the way to like C,
like 0.
C, yeah, exactly.
Because this blue highlight, right?
Correct.
So you would be like, where the hell is it? I'm used to seeing it on C5.
So
it's all the way down here.
What I found was the workaround was you go to that C5, you right click that note, and it resets it to the normal pitch that it would be, and now you can hear it.
Bro, that threw me for a loop the first time that started happening to me. I was like, yo, why can I not hear this sample? What's going on? Because I hear it when I'm previewing it.
Right.
That's the thing. You could preview it in the browser and it's perfectly fine where it's supposed to be. Sounds great. Drag it in, nothing. Silence. I'm like, yo, what the hell's going on right now? And then I don't know how I figured it out, but like after some, I don't even know, like just some like trial and error and seeing what the hell's going on in here, because obviously it has something to do with the sampler. I found that out too. And that's such an annoying thing. But the only thing that there is a fix, and I can't think off the top of my head how to fix it. I think you would have to like resample them. But what happens is whoever made the sample pack, that's why it happened. Though it's in the way that they exported them.
Right, and that's what I was wondering. I was like, how does that happen? Like, how do you export something at C0 or whatever? The only thing I can think of is maybe they use a different DAW. And
I think it's an FL thing. I think they're creating it. If my theory on this, somebody in the comments has to know this for a fact.
Gotta know.
My theory is that they're using Edison to straight up export the samples out into a pack right away without like, because sometimes in my very little experience of sound designing and like making my own sounds and samples, you'll be utilizing Edison quite a bit, but then I'll pull that sample that I made into the channel rack and then kind of finalize it there. And then from there, I'll save it.
Sure.
I'll right click that little sample in there. I think what's happening is a lot of times people are using Edison or something like Edison, and there's a preset inside there that's giving that information, just like the loop points. Have you ever opened up a sample and the loop points have been like weird, or the loop is turned on automatically?
Yeah.
That's because I think in Edison or something like Edison, the loop points are on and enabled. And then when you export it, it exports with that information. So when you export it with that
metadata
information,
sort of thing.
Yeah, sort of like a metadata, which is kind of cool in a sense, like that it has that, and you can utilize that to your advantage and make different samples do different things. But like just like the transposing thing that you said, like it's down to C0. I think the loop points is the same deal. Like sometimes you'll bring a sample in and this thing is just enabled, turned on in orange. Yeah. And then when you go to hit a sample, it just keeps looping and looping. Yeah. Or you go to play a kick pattern and the kick's just like, you know what I'm saying?
It's hitting crazy. Yeah.
So that's like, I mean, those are two like little fixes.
I did that over the weekend. I noticed, and I was like, oh, I just dropped right into the notes, just being like resetting samples, because I was like, that's something that I used literally the other day.
Yeah. There was another thing that we were talking about. Sometimes we just start podding without actually podding.
Yeah.
You brought something else up about like, because we started getting into the conversation, me, you, and Merc, about like just like session work and why, like, and how valuable time is and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But you had a question. I can't remember exactly what it was.
I guess like the overarching theme was kind of like your time as a creative is incredibly valuable, and so you want to make sure that you're, trying different stuff out, but ultimately when you find something that works, going with it. And I guess like you've done a lot in the world of like running sessions, and then you transition from doing that into like mostly online stuff.
Yep.
So I guess like for dudes who are just getting, people in general that are getting into producing and then wondering like, should they work with like doing sessions for people, or should they focus more on like online presence and like feeding stuff to like social media? I guess like what would be your insight into how much time you should give to each to sort of, because I feel like you would say to try everything out.
I would say try everything because it's hard to say like what to jump into right away. What I want to say is go for something that maybe that you first of all like love to do. Don't jump into something like that you don't really love. I loved doing session work. I loved having people in the studio and talking, shooting the shit, and recording people and making people's songs sound better, and whatever I could do to them. And I loved doing that stuff. It just came to a point where I said, all right, I can only like I have to like max out my time at a certain point. Like I can only work so much in the studio. I can only do so much session work and book so much time.
Yeah.
Because and first of all, like I can't say hire on another engineer because the reason people come to me for my work is like they like my sound, what I physically do to the songs. Maybe I could have hired a tracking engineer to maybe save some more time in that aspect, but just so happened where the online stuff started picking up and I'm realizing I'm having kids now. My time is a lot more valuable than it was beforehand. And I'm thinking, all right, how can I still do what I love to do, but make money? Or make more money because now I'm having a family. I have to like start figuring out how to make more money. I don't want to charge $150 an hour in the studio. I can't. So I just decided to go that route and just go all in on that route because I figured I could get the most out of my time while still making a career out of it.
Right.
And so I can have a little bit more free time.
Most out of your time. That's the biggest thing. Right.
So what I say is like, I don't know, find something that you love to do, but maybe that, I don't know, that doesn't cost you as much time. It's hard to say because sometimes you want those things that you love to do will take up a lot of time. And there's nothing wrong with some things that just take up a lot of time. I just think find something that you love to do. And if you can, make a career out of it and pay your bills, you know what I'm saying? And you're satisfied with that, like that's what you should go for.
And what I think was smart about the way that you were typically working with artists was that you kind of had like a shorter list than I feel like some engineers might have, where like you had, this kind of like shorter list of artists that you were working with, and you were using that time to really get familiar with FL Studio.
Yeah.
But I think that what it also allowed you to do is like kind of hone in on the artist group that you wanted to work with. You know what I'm saying? And I think like, I've seen a lot of people that do it different ways. And one thing that I don't know, it doesn't appeal to me is like when people post like their rates and their deals like on their story and things like that, because I feel like it's a little harder to like dial in with certain artists when you're just putting deals out there and like casting a wide net.
I tried that at the beginning and it didn't work that well. But I just, like you said, I started with a little group of artists, just first it started with just me and the band at first. And then people would start to hear the mixes and we would go to shows and people like, hey, you record, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. It would just be a word of mouth thing locally. Really. That's all it was. People would just start to hear it. I feel like that's the most important thing is just let the work speak for itself. Yeah. I said this to somebody 100%. Else the other day too. Like I wasn't necessarily a technical mix engineer per se. I got the songs sonically to sound good enough. I think where I really like shined at the part that I really like shined at was like the production side of the mix. If you look at it like that, like
sure,
making the song a little bit more dynamic, chopping parts out, like more production side. I would get it to sound good enough. You know what I'm saying? Like sonically, where somebody says, this mix is horrible. People hopefully weren't saying that, but you know what I'm saying? But like what people really came to me for was more of that side of things, my production background. Because I was already making beats well before that. I knew how to like structure a song. Yeah, people that would come, especially with, like
structuring is such a big part of like even the early parts of production.
And when you come to somebody with like an MP3 beat or a wave beat, it's you're a little bit more limited now in what you can do. But I would always try to find a way to make it more interesting. Yeah, because when you get an MP3 beat or a wave beat, most of the time, it's just kind of on a loop. Maybe there's a hook, a verse, outro, blah, 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 whatever. So then somebody comes to me and they're like, yo, we got to make this song like sound good. It sounds good, with the vocals that they have in there, but how can we take it to the next level? That's where I would always come in and be like, all right, let's drop this section out, or let's bring this part. Let's take this 4-bar loop of the beat and just like slow it down halftime, or reverse this part,
Right.
or take the intro piece that has like 3 instruments in it with no drums and bring it in for a B section or a pre-chorus that wasn't even there before. You know what I mean? So
Exactly.
just like arrangement and just like producing the song. That falls into that category of producing too.
If you just put a low pass filter on a certain section, like, and then just ramp it back up into the full, that tried and true, that'll do it.
Yeah, bro. I mean, you're trying to tell a story with the lyrics, the music, every aspect of it, the mix. Yeah, you're trying to tell that story. You want it to have what is it called, like peaks and valleys. You know what I'm saying? You want it to have that roller coaster of a ride. To start out here, come up here, you know, come halfway down here, ramp it up again. Like, you want to tell that story. However, like, whatever genre it is, you want that to have 100%. That. If you listen to every song has that in some way.
I was watching some documentary the other night where they were talking about how they would dynamically alter, like, sort of like the course of the music. And I think, who's the guy? Lord Alge. He did
Chris Lord Alge.
So I think Chris Lord Alge is the one that he would listen to the song, and his whole thing was just like, I listened to it once, and as I'm like, when the song's done playing, I'm done like mixing it basically. And what he does is he sits at the board, and as it's playing, he rides the mixer. And what's crazy is, like, with the rock stuff, what was nuts was, all right, the last chorus is coming up, I'm going to move the guitars up, which is like, I don't know. I never really thought about doing that, because typically with the beats, you're kind of like locked into the volume. You get the drums to hit a certain way. You get the instruments to hit. If you want to make something hit harder, you pull something out and drop everything back in. But with that, he was just like, the last chorus, we're going to shift everything up, and it's literally going to be louder.
It's crazy, bro.
I was like, damn, that totally works, though.
And when we hear some of these like legends break things down like that, and you're like, damn, it's like that, like simple. Yeah. You know, that like, it's all in the way you think about it. People try to overcomplicate stuff too much, and, you know, pull this plugin in and put it at this dB and this. Yeah. How about you just like turn it up a little bit? Turn it up. You know what I'm saying? Or just, hey, turn it down. Yeah. You know?
I loved that, because he was just like, yeah, when the song's done playing, I'm done mixing it.
Yeah.
I was like, sheesh, that's crazy.
That's funny you say that, because I've mixed, when I mix songs too, sometimes I'll not even listen to the full song, right? But I'll just like start playing it and start messing with it as the song goes along. Then I'll eventually listen to it like back and, you know, from front to back. But I like mixing as the song progresses too. I get like an overall like template going on, I would call it, where I don't even listen to anything for a little bit. I listen to nothing. I just know where I'm going with my template. Yeah. You know, these tracks are going here. These tracks are coming down. I can tell that this is the hook. The hook's going to go here. I'm lining all my audio tracks up accordingly. And then probably after like 15 minutes of doing that, I'll listen to the beginning and just start like messing with it from there.
Where do you think like the benefits of mixing out of context come into play? So you know what I mean, where you're like isolating tracks to get frequencies to sit the certain way. Because my school of thought has been like, I typically mix with everything in context, because I can hear how it's working in relation. But I feel like in the past, when I've seen and heard people mix out of context, you typically scrape a lot out that you don't necessarily need to.
Yeah, because what's the key word in there? It's mix. Mixing is, you want to hear everything mixed together. You want to hear everything together at the same time.
So where would you say like out of context mixing? I might really say is like useful?
If I'm listening to something soloed out and it's very brief, I'll tell you that it's very, very brief, and it might be because off the top of my head, like a tuning thing. Okay. Right. So if I have auto tune on there or a pitcher, you know, if I have pitcher on something and something ain't right with it, I'll solo the vocal out. Yeah. Like, do I have the right key here? Like, what's going on? Right. Like, I'll solo that out for a little bit, and it might not even be a mixing thing per se. I don't even know if I mix things in solo at all, really. Briefly, I might listen to something. I might listen to, all right, this is a good example. If I'm going to solo something out, it might be a stack of vocals or I want to get like a really fine-tuned mix on, say, 3 vocals, maybe one that's a little bit left, a little bit right, and one in the middle. And I want to get like a really tight lining of all those vocals as well as a nice tight mix on them. So maybe I'm EQing the 2 that are left and right slightly differently than the one that's in the middle.
I got you.
Maybe taking out a little bit of lows out of those left and rights and leaving the one in the middle as is. Not as is, but like whatever the vocal chain is right there. And then I might listen to that stack soloed for a little bit to get a nice fine-tuned mix, tight mix on those. And then it's like I said, it's very brief, and then I'm putting it right back in the full mix and listening to it like that. And then I might from there mix a little bit more, but in full context with the beat and everything, and maybe put some compression on those 3 vocals, like so that way you can maybe squash them together just a little bit,
right,
to get them to sit.
So
right.
when you're getting things to sit, like instruments that are the same or similar enough.
For anybody that doesn't know, we're in a like a big mill kind of like warehouse type building, and the hallways are so echoey that if like you walk out there, the sound, like the natural reverb, just changes so much, it's ridiculous.
I can hear Merc yelling at him right now.
Yo, shut the fuck.
Yo, man, what the fuck is going on?
Is there a motorcycle in the hallway now too? It wouldn't even be so bad. The hallways are just like so open. I was just saying they're so like reverby. Yeah. I don't even know the natural reverb out there, bro. I tell you what though, if you ever want to record a snare drum, get out into that hallway and record a snare drum, bro, because that natural reverb is ridiculous.
You'll get a Phil Collins sound out of that.
Yeah, you could get the impulse response from that hallway. You definitely could, because that reverb is nuts. And it's such a the hallways, they're not really high ceiling. It's just long and all concrete. So it's I don't know. It's an original kind of sound and reverb that if you get that impulse response. We talked about that with Simon, I think, or somebody, and we were talking about convolver, fruity convolver.
Okay,
how you could import impulse responses. You ever seen that, Merc? You can import impulse responses to get the reverb from anything. So you can pull the impulse response from, say, Valhalla, or from any reverb plugin you can think of.
Damn.
You get the impulse response from it, and you can import it into Convolver and mimic the reverb.
Damn.
And it sounds like you have that exact reverb. So you, like you said, you could get the impulse response from the hallway, and you have that exact reverb.
So you would
whenever you want it.
How would you do that? You would record it and then drop it into
Merc,
Convolver.
Do you know exactly
as like
how you would do that?
Something?
I'm not 100% on it. Yep. So you record a sound into the room, get the reverb, pull it. I think with Convolver, I think you can pull the impulse response. Hold on, let me see where it is again, because I'm like really interested now. Imagine getting the response from the hallway right now. Merc, I don't know if you could see this, but there must be something in here that says, so the impulse, equalizer impulse. So this is the impulse. Oh, so like, yeah, but how do you get the impulse response from whatever it is you're grabbing it from? So you record it with a mic and then you just drag it into here, and then you would take the impulse from it. Got you. Wow, that's crazy, bro. And then, yo, we should do that. Maybe not right this second, but like I want to take the reverb from that hallway. That shit's crazy. And then you'd pull it in here, you'd get the impulse. You could see impulse right here, and then you got an equalizer. And then essentially, like, you'd save it as a preset. Look at all these different kinds of presets it has.
That's
Look
wild.
There's warehouse presets in here already.
What's graveyard?
Graveyard.
What are you gonna do with that?
Different kinds of reverb.
And then
there's a bunch of them,
and then
bro.
it applies it to whatever's in there.
Yeah, so then, like, that's your reverb. So if you were to throw a sound on here, oh, maybe not a. So if I put this in here,
maybe you gotta watch it. You gotta play.
See it? That's all it is. You hear that? That's the impulse response. That's all that is right there.
What did it do?
People have done this with like amps too. So like the first time I ever heard of impulse responses was when I was in the band and we were in the studio and we were trying to get like different amp sounds. You could take the impulse response from any kind of amplifier. So any, say like an Orange amp, you know, Orange is a brand of amplifiers. You could pull the impulse response from that and do the same thing essentially, and then have that exact tone without having that amp. You could do the same thing. That's the first time I ever heard of them. I got to get more into Fruity Convolver, bro. This thing.
Would you use that thing to drag it into your sample rack?
This one?
Yeah. Would you drag that into, not into the sampler? You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So it so it creates it there, and then you.
That's
like
still the impulse, though. It's not like the reverb that is going to be on it. How about we just do this?
Deep dive into this.
How about we do this? If there's something you don't know,
Google it.
You'll look it up. The most underrated plugin in FL Studio, Fruity Convolver. 14 minutes. Do we have 14 minutes? No.
We have a 1 minute?
We have a 1 minute. Let's see. Let's
Hey, what's good? All right. So to do the effect, I'm just going to get straight into it. We're going to add Fruity Convolver. Like so. Then we want to go to presets because we want a sound that's like good for reverb. So instead of recording in our own vocals, we'll just use this sound. Because what Fruity Convolver is, it shapes how reverb sounds based on the input. So now that we've done that, let us right click this, tools, and reverse, and you've literally done it. It's that easy.
Yeah, a lot of people say, oh, that's for the reverse reverb effect. A lot of people say, yo, why don't you just use Convolver? Whenever I do like a tutorial about the reverse reverb effect, they're like, just use Convolver, bro. All right, yeah, this is what I want to say.
Here. So from the top menu, I'm just going to start by going to the presets. And we have a ton. We have chambers, corridors, exteriors, guitar cabinets, real spaces, reverb devices.
That's crazy.
So what I'm going to start with is a reverb device. And I'm going to go to this Eventide Cathedral Smooth, which is a well-known hardware reverb. If I just combine some of this wet signal here, we'll hear this cello sounding like it's in a cathedral.
All right, there you have it. That's the gist of it.
Dang.
And, I mean, you can get way more in depth because honestly, like, it has all those different effects like Edison does too. So you can get really crazy with it. You can probably shape and mess with that impulse response and make it something completely different too.
That's wild.
Yeah, pretty fire.
Yeah, I'm going to have to use that later.
It's a dope.
Because I've never used that before.
Dope plugin.
I've never even heard of impulse response before.
That's like some.
It's
something that's not really talked about much. It's more
kind of niche.
It is very, very.
You know what
niche.
I mean?
Yeah,
Like you know, you know.
Yeah, for real.
If you know, you know. That could be a decent segment for the show.
If you
too.
know, you know.
If you know, you know. Type.
We'll
shit.
have to write some down for next episode.
Facts.
Before we get into anything else, like further, let's drop the keyword for today.
Yeah.
Keyword for today is impulse because we're talking about it. Why not? So the keyword for today is impulse. Drop it down in the comments. We're going to be picking 5 people to win every single one of my FL Studio production courses next week in the episode. For this week, we're going to, again, drop the 5 winners down in the pinned comment down below. So look for your name down below and then reach out to me on Instagram and DM me, and we'll get all the prizes sorted out. For last week's episode, Simon was gracious enough to give away one of his sample packs. And again, we're doing the 5 FL Studio production courses for that episode as well. So that being said, we can just kind of keep it keep it rolling.
Yeah.
I don't even know where we're at for time, but there was something else I wanted to talk about. There was some gems.
A quick little gem I thought about was, so this, I actually picked this technique up from watching a 40 interview.
Yeah. Okay.
And this was something that I thought was so sick, where people were apparently asking him, like, with Drake's music, there's a lot of like these low pass and low quality filtering stuff.
I think I know where you're going with
And
this.
his whole thing was, we're not filtering it out. It's not there.
It's just not there.
And what he was doing, what he talked about, and you can do this in FL Studio, is suppose you have a song or you have a section of a song and you want to give it that kind of low grade quality. You go to the export window, and instead of like having the bit rate all the way up, you bring it down.
Well, just like the export, like export here?
Yeah. So if you go to this...
Would you do WAV or MP3, or doesn't matter?
Either way is probably fine. Yeah, so when you go there...
Yep.
Which one is these is it? I think it's that one. Yeah, the WAV bit depth. And you bring it all the way down.
Or maybe it's the resampling.
It's something. Hold on. It looks different.
The way I knew how to do it.
How to do it.
The way I've done it before is in Edison too. I don't know how to do it in the export.
Go to MP3. Like click on the MP3. Oh, that's what it was.
Bit rate.
So it has to be an MP3. It has to be an MP3.
So you bring this
drag the MP3 bit rate down, and when you record or when it exports, and you drop it in again,
it's gonna sound like poopy.
It's gonna sound like poop.
But it could be good.
It's gonna be chill poop.
Yeah, it could be good.
It's gonna be really chill poop.
So that's I didn't know that way to do it.
Yeah.
There was one technique I figured out is in Edison.
Oh, okay.
So you can like change the sample rate right here.
Gotcha.
So if you say if you just want to stay within the same session, that kind of, it's like a little bit of a workaround so you don't have to export out of the whole session, I guess. So that's why I guess this one's a little bit easier for me. You just right click where it says, 440, 100 hertz, and you change this
to 8.
Yeah, just start messing around with it. Yeah, just start messing around and accept. And now, bro, you hit that. That was this nuts. Clap right here.
Yeah, that's cool, man.
And like
and
you
it
said,
stretches it out and
you're
stuff
not
too.
Filtering, yeah. It turns the pitch down on it. But like you said, you're not filtering those sounds out. You're just getting. They don't exist.
Yeah, you're removing the quality, like certain higher end qualities of it. It's just poop.
That's a good one. Sounds
like poop. Yeah,
that's a good one.
Good little gem there.
Yep.
I just remembered that one the other day, and I was thinking about it because like that was such an eye opening thing. I was just like, damn, that's crazy. I didn't know. He was like, yeah, this just doesn't exist. Those frequencies are not in there. I'm like, sheesh.
Yeah, we could probably wrap this one up. I feel like a little shorter, and then we can get into that other thing we were talking about. That'll only take like 10 minutes, maybe, whatever.
It might be cool at some point to talk about like importing. I don't know if this is like still like things that people do, but if you go to like you go to like options and then project stuff, and that's how you like import like drum packs and stuff like that.
Oh, like if you want them in a specific spot, like over here?
Yeah,
like this. You talking about this section right here?
Yeah, I mean, maybe if we have like a pack that we can actually do it with, then it might be a better demonstration for the next episode. But
yeah, we can do that
because that's like some very like cursory thing that somebody would definitely need to know about. Because I feel like when people see some of our videos, they're just like, "Oh, this is so basic. I've been doing this since 9th grade," and it's like, "Congrats, congratulations, you knew something."
But then there's like 90% of the people that seen it don't know it, or maybe just it'll go towards that audience,
right? How many?
Like, I mean, we're trying to talk about everything, right? We're trying to talk about some advanced stuff like the convolver, some advanced stuff like importing and recording sessions, like we did last week with Simon. Sampling stuff. We try to touch all subjects. So if there's something that that's cool. That just means that you're on the right track. You're learning a lot. You know a lot now. You've been using it for a while. But there are some people that just are just starting out that we kind of want to cater a little bit towards too. So that way we have we can kind of just teach everybody.
Yeah, how many people happy. Right now are searching for videos to help them learn something like we just did?
Yep.
You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
So you gotta teach.
Yep.
Each one teach one. I always say that shit. You know.
But yeah, I guess that's gonna do it for today's episode.
We're gonna pick a winner.
No, that's gonna be in the pinned comments.
Oh, okay.
Because technically, that episode hasn't even come out yet. As we are recording this right now. So pinned comments. Check the pinned comments. Yeah. Again, thank you all for watching, sharing, liking. If you haven't already, please like, comment, share, and as always, make sure to share this with a friend if you get me.